Hi, I'm James Robinson, and this is today's stock pick. Today's stock pick is a company called Cal-Maine Foods, stock symbol CALM. Cal-Maine is the nation's largest producer of eggs. They produce about 1.1 billion eggs a year. That's as many eggs as the next two largest producers combined. I'm going to do a 5-part series on the company Cal-Maine. This first video is the overview, where we talk about the business in more broad terms and why I'm interested in it. The next video, we'll talk about the company's operations, which is how efficiently they deliver goods and services to the customer. Then I'll talk about the company's balance sheet, which will talk a lot about the company's risks and use of debt and or cash. We talk about the company's dividends and their ability to pay dividends safely and securely in the long term. And finally, we talk about wealth creation, which is how good a job the management does at creating wealth for the shareholders. Cal-Maine, along with its subsidiaries, is the nation's largest producer of eggs. They produce as many eggs as the next two largest competitors combined. The company, in addition, offers specialty eggs such as nutritionally enhanced, cage-free, organic, free-range, pasture-raised, as well as brown eggs. It operates under the Eggsland, Best, Land of Lakes, Farmhouse Eggs, Sun Ups, Sunny Meadow, and 4Grain brand names. Sells products to a wide array of customers, including national and regional grocery stores, club stores, independent supermarkets, as well as restaurants. Primarily, the customers are in the Southwest, the Southeast, the Midwest, the Northeast, and the Mid-Atlantic regions of the United States. The company was founded in 1957. It is headquartered in Ridgeland, Mississippi. The company has 2,229 employees. In terms of its financial information, as of March 25th, 2025, the company had a market cap of $4.6 billion, added revenues of $3.08 billion. In the last 12 months, it made $629 million in profit. The company has a current PE ratio of 7.31. Its yield is 4.59. The company has zero debt. The company is not a member of the S&P 500. So let's talk a little bit about eggs and all you ever wanted to know about eggs in America. Americans eat on average 275 eggs per year. 97% of all households in America eat eggs. And so what that means is that there's already complete penetration into this industry. The ability for the egg market to grow over time is really related to the ability of the population to grow over time. This isn't a fast-growing business, but there is some ways that we can expect this business to grow in spite of the fact that the market's not growing fast. 97% of all production is sold domestically. That's important in the age of Trump and tariffs. There are no tariffs to deal with this company. Every egg we produce is sold in America. Tariffs are not a problem. It's also a very disjointed market. There are 288 million egg-laying hens in America. Our company owns about 20% of those. 5 companies have 10 million or more hens. 17 have 5 million or more hens. And at least 63 companies have 1 million or more hens. And what that means is, and by the way, our company has bought a total of 25 subsidiaries and merged them into our operations over the years, including buying a 1 million hen producing company last year. And that gives us a tremendous amount of time to use our cash flow and our profits to buy those businesses over time and to grow our business by increasing our production, by increasing our percentage of the ownership of those 288 million hens. Here are some financial facts that have really drawn me to this business, and one of the reasons I'm very interested in it. As we've talked about, this company has no debt whatsoever. And whenever a company has no debt, that's a good sign for me that they're operating very efficiently. They're not wasting money. They don't need debt to run their business, and they're probably pretty long-term profitable if they're able to sustain a no-debt environment. This company owns 28,000 acres of land, again, debt-free. They own 50 million chickens, 39 million of which are egg-laying hens. Those hens, the price can vary, but let's just use the number. Those hens are worth about $35 each. They have 11 million breeders and pullets. Again, a pullet is a chick which is born but not yet ready to lay eggs. And those are worth about $25 per unit, per chicken. In addition, the company has $812 million in cash, and the company has $1.6 billion in plants, property, and equipment. So when you add all that up, you see that they have about $126 million in land. That assumes that the average acre of farmland in America is about $4,500 an acre. I don't know whether their acreages are more or less expensive, so that number might be off a little bit, but that's the number that I'm using for this analysis. At $35 per breeding hen with 39 million, that's $1.3 billion worth of hens. Pullets, they have 11 million of them at $25 each, that's $275 million worth of pullets. They have 812 million in cash. They have 1.6 million in plants, property, and equipment. So that works out to $4.1 billion of, let's say, extremely valuable operating equipment, which could be sold instantaneously to the marketplace. So without any credit for the operation, for the contracts, for the goodwill, for the technology, for the ability to assemble all of these different components together, you've got $4.1 billion in assets for a company that only costs $4.6 billion. This basically, you're buying this company for the price of its book value directly related to operations, which I think is an extraordinarily good buy. One of the reasons this company has been beat up is because of bird flu. So bird flu has had, this company, Cal-Maine, has had to kill 2 million birds in the last 18 months as a result of bird flu. And it's in theory possible that they could have to kill them all one day, right? There could be bird flu, a gigantic widespread epidemic, and you'd have to kill them all. And so the idea is when you lose 2 million birds, each bird lays about 275 eggs a year. So that becomes an awful lot of eggs, 500 million eggs a year that you lose the production on, and you can see where that would really hurt the value of the company. But I think that the ability of that, the actual damage done by that is relatively small. There's 30 million egg laying hens, to put it in perspective, 50 million total chickens. And so 2 million chickens is not the end of the world. It's 4% of the population of the eggs, of the chickens that we have. But the other thing to think about, and I've done the math on this, is a chicken takes 6 months to go from the day it's born to the time it's laying eggs. Thereafter, it lays about 275 eggs a year. Considering that half of those eggs are going to be female and able to become egg layers 6 months later, it doesn't take that long to reconstitute the flock. To put it in perspective, to go from one hen to 45 million hens takes about 135 weeks if every egg that those hens laid was harvested to create new breeding and new laying hens. So even if we were entirely wiped out, we'd still have all of the cash, we'd still have all the plants and equipment, we'd still have all the land, we'd still have all the expertise, we'd still have all the contracts. In theory, everybody would be equally wiped out in the industry. And assuming we could save one hen, we'd be right back in business exactly where we are today in 2.5 years. And that's in the most catastrophic case you can imagine. And so I just don't think this company should be beat up because 4% of the flock had to be euthanized one year. Obviously it's a bummer, but it's not the kind of thing that should destroy the value of this company. So as we're looking at buying this company, one of the things I'm looking at is ways for us to win, right? Ways for us to have the stock price appreciate. The first thing is the reconstituted flock. Those 4% of chickens will be in short order, new chickens will have been born, bred, they'll grow up from pullets, and they'll be laying eggs. It won't take very long to do that. Once that happens, the revenue should revert back to normal and the company's stock price should react accordingly. In addition, the company, I believe, is ripe for dividend expansion. This company has $800 million in cash. They don't have a justifiable need for $800 million in cash. And so I think they should be paying some of that money back out to the shareholders. The next thing is stock repurchases. The board has just approved a repurchase of $500 million worth of shares. I think the company is very undervalued. Again, they have $800 million in cash, and they should be using a huge portion of that to buy back shares at these cheap prices. When that happens, our share of the ownership will increase and our stock value should go up. Another thing that I think is a legitimate thing is I believe this company is ripe for purchase. It's very asset rich. It has no debt. It has great cash flow. It's very, very cheap. It's in a business which is indispensable. It's the largest producer in that business. And I'm stunned that private equity hasn't already tried to buy it, and maybe they have. But there's been an interesting development that's happened in just the last few weeks, which again is one of the reasons why I've been interested in this stock. And by the way, I mentioned actually this company last year in my annual meeting and didn't buy it, but it's been on my radar for a while. But what happened is the founder of this company died a few years ago. He owned Class A shares of the company, which were voting blocks, which even though he owned 12% of the company, the shares that he owned had a disproportionately large voting block, and therefore he controlled 52% of the stock, of the voting rights of the company. So he had control of the company even though he only owned 12%. Well, his family has just entered into a deal with the board to convert their shares to regular shares, which would convert their voting rights from 52% to 12%. And I believe that the reason to do that is either A, we're gonna buy their shares back, or B, they're gonna position the company for sale. And so I think that's a real opportunity for us. The other way we can make money is this is just a very well-run company and it's in a good industry. And in the long run, we'll make money as this company's value increases. And the final point is this company is constantly buying its competitors. As I said earlier, they bought 25 egg manufacturers in the last 30 years, and including one last year. And I wouldn't be surprised with 63 companies, each making 1 million eggs a year. Each employing 1 million hens at a time. There's always going to be some opportunity to buy those operations. To give you a sense, you can buy, the last company we bought that had about 1 million hens was bought for about $55 million. So that gives you a sense of, it's about $55 per hen roughly that you're paying to buy the business. So that should give you a sense of sort of why I'm so interested in the company. So finally here you see my analysis of the company and my grading of it. You can see the company has a total score of 3.29, which is very, very high. Its operations were slightly below where I'd like to see them, but I'm not surprised by that. This is a company that has, a tremendous amount of plants and equipment, and a pretty large and diverse operation spread all over the country. So I'm willing to accept a little bit lower in terms of margins. Eggs are a low margin business, but they're also a business that's an evergreen business. People keep buying eggs every day, right? But the company, again, has no debt. They seem to be very efficient in the way they treat their shareholders. And so again, I think this is a great company. I think it's one that you should consider buying. Thank you very much for your time.